I think, push back if you disagree, I think present day us, being as upfront and transparent as we are, would literally say, hey, I was very excited with you, but unfortunately, we just did your back channels and they didn't come back good. Out of respect to everyone's privacy, I'm not going to go into details, but unfortunately, I no longer feel comfortable moving forward with you.
Hi, I am not excited for you to listen to today's episode. I'm a little bit anxious because in today's We're Not Recording, Melanie and I unpack a big old mistake that I made a couple of years ago. And it was about hiring and kind of a hiring process gone a little bit wrong, what we learned from it. But I think that the most valuable lessons and insights kind of come from mistakes. And so for all of our learnings, I share mine and Melanie gives her a strong perspective on it. And I think you'll find it really interesting. While I've got your attention, both Melanie and I work for Athena, a company that does compliance training in a way that's really engaging, interesting, and effective. And so please do have your HR or legal teams check Athena out. Melanie, I feel like we have talked kind of about how moments where we've disagreed or whatever, but we have a fun little case study that we're going to unpack today.
Let's do it.
Okay. We're going to anonymize this slightly to protect the guilty, the innocent, the everyone. Okay, so let's just say sometime during the past 6 years when I was running Athena, we were hiring for a somewhat senior leader. For the interest of this, so that we can make it sound specific, let's say it was a VP of engineering. It is not our VP of engineering. It's been with us since day 3, but just so that we don't have to keep being vague about this. Okay, so I'm running the search, talking to a bunch of VPs of engineering, find one, get real excited. And things are looking good. And I'm a ready, fire, aim kind of leader, which I would say works out well 80% of the time. And then 20% of the time results in pretty spectacular failures. Yeah. And what ready, fire, aim means is sometimes I don't think before I fully send an email, before something comes out of my mouth. I just get excited and I feel like the cost of inaction is very high. And so I act without fully thinking it through. I would argue, but we're going to get to it, that in this case, I wasn't totally wrong. But long story short, this VP of engineering had done very well in a lot of our interview processes. And so I was getting very excited. So I sent an email on, let's call it a Friday, basically being so excited to talk and making it very clear that I'm about to give an offer, leading the candidate on, but that is what I thought I was going to do on Friday.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, I received just really consistent, multiple examples of why I should not make this hire, including from investors. It's just nope, Roxanne,
brutal.
Do not do this. I'm get the first one and I'm surely there's a misunderstanding. Get the second one. I'm oh, that sounds pretty similar. And just suddenly I'm kind of what have I done? Spend the weekend being what have I done? Talk to my husband. And he was I don't know why you feel so bad. Maybe this VP of engineering shouldn't have burned bridges at all the companies he has worked at previously. So I have to get on a call and face my, I made my bed and in my defense, and maybe the only defense, I took it like a woman and got on the call and was just we will not be making an offer. Yeah. And it was very awkward. I was deeply not looking forward to this call. My tummy hurt all day. But in the end, I think it was a decision between bad and worse, or at least I had put myself in a decision where then I was faced with bad and worse. And bad was awkwardly being just kidding. And worse was just being well, I guess I'm hiring this person that literally everyone is telling me not to hire for very specific, tangible reasons. And Melanie, you were Roxanne, you kind of were a dum-dum here. And I wish you had not made this mess that you had to clean up.
Yeah, I will say from the HR perspective, I'm a big fan of never, ever commit or promise anything until you know for sure. And this goes even for managers. They often promise a promotion or an increase before that's actually even been approved. And then they have to go back and tell their direct report, sorry, it didn't get approved. And then they get mad at me for, HR being the one who has to tell them, yes, you have to, even though it's not my decision, but now I'm the bad guy. Now they blame HR. And so I'm a big fan of don't commit to anything or lead someone along until you know. I think the other area where we went wrong, where hopefully I would hope that today we would do better, is I don't think we were as
we made some significant cultural changes or like process changes.
I think so. And one of them is we're much more upfront and transparent about the fact that we back channel. And so I think you would
I was actually transparent even here. I would say my mess up was why did I wait so long to get all of this? That was my
that's
my
interesting.
big mistake.
And did you in the email?
I'm always clear with senior leaders, like from the beginning. Even Chris, our VP of marketing, who we've hired and who's wonderful and who in no way the story is about, is because he is here. Like he even was like, yes, Roxanne, that's the thing you say.
But did you in that email say, hey, we're really excited pending these backdoor references, we're excited to move forward? Right, exactly. And so I think it was just like, hey, we're ready to move forward. And then a few days later, just kidding.
In my slight defense, which doesn't make it that much better, I don't think I said we're ready to move forward, but I was like, I'm incredibly excited. Like it was walking right up to the line of a promise. Doesn't make it better. I would argue that I think that it's not good, and I'm like laughing here because there's several years distance, but like I recognize it's not like funny, and it's
sure,
like, but I think what's really hard about being any leader is like you just have to make a lot of decisions kind of like all the time, and I think what I find tricky is my personality is like, if you would ask me on Friday, Roxanne, how serious are you about this? I'd be like, really serious. Like I wasn't and then it was like, what is just tricky is like, and then with more information, I am now very quick to be like, I'm wrong. And I think that personality type or that characteristic, strong opinions loosely held, can be really powerful because it means that, I don't know if you would agree, but I'd say like, this happens to me all the time with product or strategy ideas. I'm like, we're so going in this direction. This is the most brilliant idea anyone has ever had. It doesn't even have to be my idea. You can have an idea. Kayla can have an idea. And then 3 days later, you saw last week, I posted something in leadership where I was like, guys, I set everyone off on this direction with code of conduct training. Doesn't really matter the specifics. And in retrospect, I'm wrong. And so like, I think it's like a combination of that combined with the advice I've always been given is always be selling great candidates along the way, which means that you're not giving the like, Melanie, I'm so appreciative of you taking the time and I will be back with you shortly. Yeah. You're giving a little bit of like a Melanie, like, man, this was such a great conversation. And like, look over the weekend, if you want me to provide any references, anyone I've worked with, super happy to do that. Reach out anytime. Here's my cell phone. And like, so it just means that you are leading people on because you do intend, like, you're doing it with candidates you do believe you will be moving forward with, or at least there's a high likelihood. I'm sure this is going to go over very poorly on LinkedIn.
No, I think it's a balance. I think there are many things that I have appreciated that we do differently since I joined Athena. For example, at my last company, we would play just a little bit coy with candidates. We didn't want to be overly eager, whereas here, no. In fact, when we make an offer to someone, we have the whole team send them an email being like, oh my gosh, before they've even signed, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I hope you join. Can't wait to partner with you. And I remember being on the receiving end of that and feeling so excited. And it made me think even more, and it made me feel like I was already part of the team. So I think you are right. Those things work. You guys even, I always remember this. You came all the way to Jersey to take me out for coffee. And I was
wrong by an hour.
You were
in my calendar, and I was
it's
late,
okay.
Which I felt really bad. You're right, but I did make it to Jersey. So,
and then I proceeded to be late for the rest of our partnership. So it's fine. It's fine.
You're like eating back those 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think there is such a thing as irresponsibly making a candidate feel strung along. And so I think there are just like easy disclaimers or terms that people can incorporate just to make it just a little bit smoother. And granted, for a senior leader, hopefully they already know, but I would always say something like, hey, like pending such and such, so excited, or like really excited to learn more because of the things I'm hearing so far, really great. It's just like, I remember that email that you sent. I don't remember the exact words, but I remember it literally
It was
sounded
bad.
like
It was
it
bad.
was everything but the offer. It was everything
It
but
was
the
bad.
offer,
It was
you
bad.
know? And then, I mean, you know how it felt then having to walk it back. And I remember like partnering with you on the draft language and how we were going to say. Actually, I have a question for you. What do you remember if you were direct about the reason why you changed your mind?
Oh, I was not direct.
You were not
No,
direct, right?
God,
You made it
no
about
way.
something else. Why? Why? Because I
I'm
think
getting
present
like
day. I
Brandis
think.
is like just
Oh, is
gonna.
that way? Is that why?
No,
Okay,
it
that's
wasn't just that. It was just like, look, I mean, I don't know. What would you do? It's like a really uncomfortable thing to be like, imagine the scenario like we're about to hire you, Melanie, and then we're like, hey, you've worked at only, let's call it in this example,
yeah,
3 companies. I have
yeah.
found multiple people at all of those 3 companies who told a very similar story and it was really bad. Discuss? Like, what are you going to say?
I think push back if you disagree. I think present day us, being as upfront and transparent as we are, would literally say, hey, I was very excited with you, but unfortunately, we just did your back channels and they didn't come back good. Out of respect to everyone's privacy, I'm not going to go into details, but unfortunately, I no longer feel comfortable moving forward with you. I think at the senior level, like that's a real talk conversation that you can just have with someone.
I think maybe you're right. I think what is an issue is like I remember very early on, like well before you had joined, we were hiring for a role and not even for back channel reasons, just like
Yeah.
move forward with a different candidate, and this candidate who we ended up passing on says why, and I tell her, I say like, oh well, I thought that this candidate was stronger here, here, and here, and oh my god, the email that I got back was just the screed, and so like I think what is hard is like at the point at which I've made the decision, I'm optimizing for like me and the company
Yeah.
and not this candidate who have decided to pass on. I think it is unfortunate, but I think also if you have like burned bridges at your 3 companies, you didn't tell me that. I'm not so sure that you're going to be really receptive to that feedback.
Okay, so fascinating that you bring that up
Mm.
because I have a real life example that recently came up, and I think it shows like a clear distinction between like. Let me just share the story. So basically, we we used to not give any feedback to candidates. That's a liability thing that most companies will do
And
because
then we
it
got
causes.
feedback on not giving
And
feedback.
then we got feedback on not giving feedback. So we ran an experiment, which we have since pressed pause on,
Oh, I didn't
where
know this.
oh
I knew
yeah,
about the
so
experiment, but I didn't know it.
well, you're
It failed
learning live.
spectacularly. Yeah.
I feel like this is where you should find out everything on the
Honestly, we'll
podcast.
just cancel our one-on-ones and they'll
Yeah,
just
there
become
you
this.
go.
Yeah.
I made the decision that we are not going to be doing this anymore currently. And yeah, in particular because, and I don't know that most HR people will disagree. I don't know that most people will disagree with me. We're in this really tense labor market right now where, understandably, because it's a tough market, candidates are getting increasingly desperate. It's high stakes. It's high emotions. Many of them have been looking for work for months and months and can't find a job. So I totally get it.
It's
I have
it's like
empathy.
hostile. I feel like it's a little like it feels a little like class warfare-y or something. Just
Yes.
like seeing. Remember that woman we talked about the post who posted about rejecting candidates with typos in their resume, and it was just like, I wonder if she got physical hate mail. Like,
Exactly right. It is becoming incredibly hostile, such that, to your point, who am I optimizing for? I am optimizing for the candidates that we want to hire. I am not optimizing for the candidates that we don't want to hire. And I know that it's not going to land well with everyone, but at the end of the day, we're a business. We are not here to please everyone. We have to pick our battles and be strategic about where we spend our time and energy. And so what happened was, because to your point, things are getting increasingly hostile, one of our hiring managers gave someone feedback. And I thought the feedback it was honest and it was helpful and it was true, but it was too honest. It was one of those things that the person, they took it personally, but also what happens when you're in this desperate mindset, in my opinion, is you cling to things. You think, oh, if only you misunderstood. And if only you didn't misunderstand this one thing, I would be getting this job right now. When the fact of the matter is, no, like you are not, fundamentally, you're not getting this job because unfortunately, fundamentally, your skills and expertise do not line up with the needs of our role or your values or whatever. It's a bigger thing than like this one nitpicky thing. But what happened in this one case is they found one nitpicky thing in the feedback and they were like, you're wrong. You misunderstood me. That's not what I meant. And I'm very disappointed. And it went on a whole tirade. And here again,
This is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, I have empathy, and also I'm so sorry, but like we're not going to keep doing this. But anyway, to bring it back to the point, I think that we should be honest, but I don't think that we should get overly specific because I think that's where things get into that's where you get into problems. And that applies even when you're doing like a termination, for example. You never go into the weeds of like, here are the 3 specific things that you didn't do. It's, as you know, we've been having several conversations about your performance over the past few months. You have continued to not meet the expectations. Therefore, we've made the tough decision to part ways. The minute you get into specifics, the person now sees it as a debate that they're going to argue.
Do you remember that woman who TikToked her termination?
Yeah, she
recorded Cloudflare or something.
I think it was. I remember her name, but I won't say it.
Yeah, well, you and I watched it, and I think that was one of the things, to correct me if I'm wrong, but you had pointed out, is that like the manager kind of opened or HR, I don't remember who was conducting the call, sort of opened the door, and then it just became this like discussion that was never going to be productive. Like, tell me if you agree. I've never heard of anyone who is like, I was in the process of terminating an employee when they changed my mind. You know, like it's like you're kind of here. But I think that human nature is like, especially in the moment, which is really understandable. You're receiving like shocking news and you're kind of just like flailing, like looking to grab onto anything. And also as a side note, I remember when Anne and I were interviewing you, and one of the activities that, I don't know if you remember this, but we asked you to do a mock termination. I think you were terminating Anne. And tried to disagree with something you had said. And I actually specifically remember, because I think Anne and I were like slacking, that you were just like, yep, not going to be talking about this. We're focused on the termination. And Anne and I were like, oh, we're going to hire her. And like, Anne just was so cowed. She was like, okay. Even though it was like it was like, okay. Because, and I think that's actually the kinder thing too, because pretending that this is a conversation. So I think maybe you're right that in the future, if it's a senior leader.
Yeah, I think you just make it clear. This is not a discussion. This is me communicating to you a decision, very high level. Here's what impacted our thinking. But I'm not going to go into specifics of the specific thing that made me decide I don't want to hire you, or the specific thing that made it so that we have to part ways with you. It's just high level. It's a performance issue. Or in this case, unfortunately, the back channels did not go in your favor. We're not moving forward. And I think that's as much information as we are. I don't even think we're responsible for sharing that much, but that's as much information as I, from a personal perspective, feel that that person deserves after having invested so much time in the interview process.
Yeah, I think I agree. Man, it is just like fraught. That's my
advice to anyone listening in. If you're on the employer side, be very clear, be direct, but don't go into the weeds. Don't make it a conversation. If you're on the other side, please know that fighting is not the solution.
And if I were interviewing right now and someone was like, Roxanne, how are you as an employee? I'd be like, toward the end of McKinsey, pretty checked out. So if you talk to some people who worked with me then, like, I think it's kind of important for you to know, here's why I wasn't engaged at that work. I don't necessarily think it was fair or right for me to not give it my all, but like, that's how it was there. Here's how I was in the Army. Here's where I was really phenomenal. And here's where like I wasn't so great. And I think just having a real self-awareness and transparency, and then people are going to be like, oh my God, no one's going to hire you if you're honest. I disagree. I think that people will hire you if you're honest and good.
I think that's right, because they're going to find out this information regardless. I agree with you that it's not like you're only back channeling through one company. You're back channeling from a variety of people from a variety of companies, and so if they have a similar issue at every single company, that's I find it hard.
Well, it gets tricky, but like, yeah, I mean, like again, as a I'm supposed to just go off of maybe 3 hours of an interview. I'll also say I think this is the spicy take we can end on. So I think we're a company that has been known for like this really thoughtful culture. And so I think sometimes people project onto Athena, onto me and you, um, like that we're what they want companies to be all the time. And I think that like we get just like a lot of hate when we talk about back channeling or things that feel really quote company friendly and not employee friendly. And I think that is unfortunate because like I do not know of a tech leader who doesn't back channel. I just don't think that they write about it or they speak about their culture or they're open to like, feedback. And so I think sometimes like I don't know if that resonates, but that's been like a thing I've been noodling on. Like it's like when you said something in some HR forum about, I don't know, that the employee needed to get it together and people were like, Melanie.
Yeah, I think listen, if I understand why someone might take it that way because it's an emotionally tense time right now. And also it's a missed opportunity. This is all data, right? Like to your point, all companies are doing this. We're just being open about it so that people can better set them up for success. I want to know that back channeling is important so that I make sure not to burn bridges or so that I can proactively disclose if something might make you raise an eyebrow. I want to know that, companies don't give feedback for these reasons so that I don't get set off or feel, wronged in some way unnecessarily during an interview process. Good talk.
I've been waiting my whole life to say this. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and follow us on LinkedIn because that's the only social media platform where we hang out.